Saturday, November 12th, I once again traveled towards Florida's sugar fields near Lake Okeechobee, and on this leg of the journey, I found myself tangling with some thick fog. With the passage of hurricane season in the state of Florida, it was steam season once again in the sugar fields, and today the Florida East Coast Railway Society would be hosting a private excursion pulled by U.S. Sugar Steam Locomotive number 148. My first plan was to travel to Clewiston, as I figured the excursion would be leaving at 9 a.m. as listed. But when a fellow rail fan on board informed me that the train had left early and was already preparing for a photo run by at Lake Harbor, I decided to skip Clewiston and hustle straight to Miami Canal and Lake Harbor, where I arrived just in the nick of time.
Good job, everybody. Thank you all for being quiet, even though I don't do video. Well, that I can't help. I poured it very. Did you ever know Scott Young?
By now, the passengers had taken all their photos and were preparing to board the train. And just before 9 a.m., the train began reversing back to Miami Canal Road. This November, the U.S. Sugar Railroad's steam excursion train service, the Sugar Express, would be kicking off a spectacular season with several opportunities to ride behind the 148. For today's excursion, the train would be traveling from Clewiston to Marcy, which is east of Port Mayaca. Today's consists included engine 148, 3 passenger cars, and diesel locomotive number 409, an EMD GP38-2 locomotive built in February 1970, and is one of U.S. Sugar's newest diesel locomotives. Sugar Express's Miami Locks is a former Amtrak baggage car used as an open-air car for the Sugar Express, for passengers to experience the sounds of the locomotive. U.S. Sugar's Palmdale is a former Pennsylvania Railroad lounge car used as a dining car for the Sugar Express. The Southern Railway's Fort Oglethorpe, number 664, is not part of Sugar Express's roster, but was instead leased from the Southern Appalachia Railway Museum for the 2022 and 2023 operating season. The Fort Oglethorpe is a former Central of Georgia Bud 54-seat coach used on several steam excursions across the country. As the passengers boarded the train, I hurriedly set up my tripod in the back seat as I wanted to get some pacing shots on US 441 and sprinted ahead to Orange Avenue Circle in Belle, Glade. continued on to Canal Point with the 4K camcorder set up in the back seat, but I think the dash cam shots really won the game today. I will now let the 148 do all the talking as I follow the train to Canal Point. stopped at Canal Point at around 9:40 a.m., and the 148 would uncouple from its cars and take on water at the old spur at Mill Road once served by U.S. Sugar's Bryant Turn. Here I thought it would be a nice opportunity to test out my new DJI Mavic Mini drone I bought on Amazon. As I'm still a novice flyer, I made sure to keep my eye on the aircraft at all times. I was fortunate to be blessed with nice weather with minimal wind speed, and I think the bird's eye shot worked out well. But as breathtaking as the drone shots were, there's nothing like a good old-fashioned roster shot. After the 148 coupled to its cars, I drove over to the next crossing north of this location to perform a special run-by shot using all the cameras I used for rail fanning over the years, including the camera that started it all, a 15-year-old RCA Small Wonder I spent months repairing, and an old Sony Handycam of which I replaced the flex cable. These shots showed just how much my equipment has evolved over the years. There was some pretty good stack talk at this location. While the angles weren't exactly the same, this setup was a success. Unfortunately though, packing up the cameras caused me to struggle to keep up with the train. In the middle of the lonely hamlet of Port Mayaca, Florida, stands an old piece of Florida East Coast Railway history right next to Highway 76. This is a 1920s Florida East Coast Railway pony plate girder lift bridge, located on the former Florida East Coast Railway's K branch over the St. Lucie Canal. This type of bridge is quite rare and the only one of its kind in the state of Florida. It's quite fitting that the 148, also a 1920s Florida East Coast Railway veteran, would cross this nearly 100-year-old bridge, just like engines of its kind possibly did decades ago. These two pieces of history combined would make for perfect photo opportunities. At this location, crew members would lower the bridge and the train would cross so that passengers would disembark on the other side, and the train would perform 3 photo run-by opportunities as it crossed the bridge. Today I decided to seize the opportunity to get some good footage of the 148 crossing the bridge, as I wasn't able to do so during the Apricot run. Due to its slow speed, it took several minutes for the bridge to lower completely, and I sped up the footage as watching it lower in real time would be akin to watching paint dry. As the rails finally aligned and the 148 began to cross the bridge, I prepared to head over to the north end of the bridge to grab some footage. north end of the bridge couldn't be accessed by car, and the 3/4 mile distance and hot temperatures meant that I could never make it to that spot on foot in time, so I decided to improvise and rode a scooter to the spot of interest, and arrived just in time. Certainly came in handy today, allowing me to obtain a shot I had been meaning to grab since the apricot run. No tripod here though, as it would have been too bulky to carry. As the train began reversing for 2 more photo run-by shots, I stepped back a bit from the bridge to grab some full shots of the bridge and the train. Bridge shots were a success, and after the 3rd run-by, the train would continue up to Marcy and then would return to Clewiston led by the diesel. I realized that all that driving and scootering made me hungry, so I grabbed some lunch at Indiantown and drove back to Clewiston, hoping to catch a cane job or 2. But alas, I was greeted with a string of idling locomotives instead. As the excursion train headed back to Clewiston, I decided to grab one more shot of it at Lake Harbor with the diesel leading, just before 3 p.m. this wraps up today's chase of the 148's FECRS Special. It's always a thoroughly exciting experience chasing the 148, and with Sugar Express's busy schedule for the 2022 and 2023 season, I will have many more opportunities to chase and hopefully ride behind Engine 148. I would also like to give a shout out to YouTube user FEC Railfanning for keeping me posted on locations. As always, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, this is Casual Railfan, out.